Comic Timing is listener supported by listeners like you over at patreon.com/comic timing. We thank you so much for any little bit that you can give. For as little as $1 a month, you can go ahead and sign up there. Get cool things like Kris talking to her mom about Deadpool and Wolverine, and my random diaries, and some early releases when we have the opportunity. And we thank you so much for every little bit for as little as $1 a month over at patreon.com/comic timing. Hey there, folks. My name's Ian Levinstein, and welcome to episode 226 of Comic Timing, as I blow the ears out of the individual who is joining me on this very episode with our rock and roll intro theme. And of course, that person is Kris Naudus. Hello there, Kris.
Please don't insult your listeners by just saying rock and roll. It is very 2005.
It is.
A few of us have been like, please, Ian, for the love of God, can we get something new? I don't really think it reflects the podcast as much anymore. Yeah, I'm saying this on the podcast. Come on.
That's perfectly fine. I mean, knock on wood, there may theoretically be some new intro music coming if things work the way that I hope that they do. But yes, nonetheless, it's nice and nostalgic. Remember the mid 2000s? Everything was great. We did it all for the Nookie. What? The Nookie. What? And then that's about that.
Yeah, I will say you are a very mid-2000s person, given your age range.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The first two CDs that I ever bought were Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit. I have not listened to them in quite some time. The third one was Korn with a K.
My first CD, since we seem to be on the subject, was Salt and Pepper's Very Necessary, because I'm cool.
And now, of course, I once again have Patrick Stewart saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, Salt and Papa," stuck in my head from Mulaney's bit about that. He appreciated how Patrick Stewart said it, because it sounded like Peppa wasn't around, and then at the very last moment, Peppa came in and he was surprised about it. Hence why he said it's Salt and Papa. Good times.
Yeah, well, he's a Shakespearean actor.
He is. And if you haven't read his autobiography, read the audiobook. It's actually quite great because he reads it himself, and it's available on Spotify if you have a Spotify account. So there we go. All right, we're going to talk some conventions this episode and a bunch of other, random tidbits in between. Kris and I both attended Anime NYC, so that will be the main focus. But before we get there, Kris got to attend this year's FlameCon in Manhattan a couple of weeks back, and I'd love to start things off with that and get your thoughts on the 2024 edition of the gayest convention around. So
yeah. See, I don't know about other conventions. When I was younger, there was YowieCon and YuriCon, and it was a gay old time.
Yes.
Honestly, so this is an interesting thing I was just thinking of. You and I don't go to Anime Next. We don't go to Anime Next anymore because it's just not happening the past few years.
Yes.
I've never been to Anime Expo. I kind of have no desire to go, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't done Otakon in a while. But it's like weird to me because I feel like summer is re-emerging as a convention season. Maybe just for me, like maybe it's always been convention season for other people.
Yeah.
But the fact is that Anime NYC was actually the third event I've attended in August. The second was FlameCon, as Ian just mentioned. The first one was actually this little thing called Stationery Fest. I'm just going to mention it real brief.
Sure.
Like Ian doesn't give a shit because the comics were not there.
No. I like artwork and I like fancy stationery. What are you talking about?
It's not artwork. That's what's like kind of interesting about it, is you do see a lot of the same vendors. I did see the same vendors 3 weeks in a row. I'm not even effing kidding at this point. Wow. But it was a con. I'll say it was basically a little con, a little festival for people who like journals, who like fountain pens. There were so many fountain pen dealers. I would never be into that. It does not appeal to me. Lots of washi tape, tons of washi tape. People love washi tape. I don't even know what people use washi tape for at this point. That was the room for it. Like, that's it with Ian's posting. If you're listening on audio, I apologize. The view here, it's just a big empty room with lots of beams, vertical beams holding up the ceiling. The ceiling is kind of like corrugated looking. It's probably rust. The floor is wood, clearly has seen a lot of shit.
Oh yeah.
The room was fine. Like once it was filled, there was a little stage. G Kids was one of the sponsors. Yeah, there were booths where you could buy like rubber stamps. So I did buy some rubber stamps. And again, there was so much washi tape. There's a table called Cute Things from Japan, which actually segues kind of nicely into, us talking about an anime convention. It was for 3 days. It was in the middle of the week, which was weird. Like it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday, from what I saw online, I did not go on Wednesday, was a complete clusterfuck. There were just lines around the block. It was raining, so people were standing in the rain for 2 to 3 hours to get into this room. I don't know if they oversold tickets, but the tickets were only $20, so it's no reason to not just buy a ticket and just pop in and check it out. It was hosted by Yosaka Stationery, which is in Greenpoint as well. They were 2 doors down, so they did good business. So this was good for them, like a good idea for them to run this stationery fest.
Nice.
I think it was just interesting because again, you see a lot of the same vendors, like people who sold washi tape, like the Washi Station. I know was at Stationery Fest, and I saw them at Anime NYC. They may or may not have been at FlameCon. I wasn't really looking too closely, but I just thought it was interesting because I'm walking around at Stationery Fest and somebody goes, "Oh my God, this is like an anime convention," and so there, I do think there was like a gendered thing definitely there too, like because like when you go to an anime artist alley, it's mostly women, mostly girls, female types, So that's the only reason I bring that up. Like if you are into stationery, if they do it again next year, it's actually kind of worth it. Even if you're not in the stationery, it's $20. You could walk in and just like see a bunch of nerds freaking out about planners. I will not understand planners.
Here's the most important question though. August in New York City, how was the air conditioning?
It was a rainy day, remember? I just said it was raining.
Right. Okay.
It was raining for 2 out of the 3 days. It was fine.
Okay.
Like a lot of people were masked. They didn't really ask people to mask, but people did it anyway because that's the community.
Right.
And it was fine. The one criticism I have, and mind you, this also segues also into talking about FlameCon, talking about Anime NYC. They had a stamp rally where you could go to different booths and you get the little stamp, no purchase required.
Yeah.
It was like 15 booths, and then you go pick up the goodie bag. But the goodie bags, they only had 200 available over the 3 days.
Okay.
Which is something interesting I've been noticing is that FlameCon has stamp rallies, but a lot of anime cons do. The thing is, though, is a lot of these stamp rallies at cons, you have to purchase something to get the stamp.
Right.
So they expect you to purchase like make a $10 purchase at like 7 booths. So that's $70 right there. And then it's like while supplies last on the goodie bags. So legally that counts as gambling.
Ooh.
Yeah, think about it. They're making you spend $70 and you may or may not get a prize.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why for left field media, all left field media conventions do not allow stamp rallies for that reason, I think. They don't say that's why, but after I did a little digging, because the thing is I really like little rubber stamps and I like getting them stamped in my notebook. And so I was curious. I looked into that. I will say that, yeah, FlameCon had some stamp rallies. I managed to get people to stamp my book anyway, because I was like, I just want the stamp. I don't care about the stamp rally.
Nice.
Anime NYC, I did not, there were stamp rallies, but I only saw them online. I didn't see any at the table. Like, so they were keeping it on the down low, even though on the down low means posting it on Instagram for whatever reason.
Of course. Yeah.
So I will go into FlameCon because again, it's really interesting because some of the dealers were the same over the same 3 weeks. So FlameCon was a week and a half later. That was at the usual Marriott Times Square on 53rd Street. Yeah, now Ian's going to bring that up.
Some video I'm playing from the official FlameCon Instagram of what the floor looked like.
Yeah, it's showing the dealer's room or the exhibition hall, whatever you want to call it. There is a screen with the FlameCon logo on it. Lots of lighting. It's a little pinkish. It's actually nice. I will say that. Like one thing about FlameCon dealer's room, one, they always have the lights a little dimmer. And I think that might be because some people are light sensitive, but at the same time, it's not always great for being able to see things.
Sure.
My memory is it was kind of fine this year because I've had years where I've had trouble seeing things. And,
yeah, I remember that from when I would go as well. I know it was a different room when I went, but the lighting was always kind of so-so.
So like FlameCon, besides being the con that is for queer people, which anyone listening to this, just so you know, it's not like you have to be queer to go. They're not going to card you. They don't want your gay card, your lesbian card, your trans card. That's not the point. It's basically what you would call a queer controlled space, in that like most of the board, if not all of the board, is queer people, and a lot of the staff are queer people, and a lot of the policies will be created with queer folks in mind. Straight people are welcome. In fact, I actually would love for more straight people to go, because I want them to, honestly, I want them to see that like a con can actually be nice.
Oh yeah.
And like people are more polite. I've talked about this on the podcast before, where I'll be at like Mocha or New York Comic Con, and people would just be bumping into me. I could be all the way over to the side. I could be almost next to the wall. My ass is not sticking out in the aisle, and yet people will still keep slamming into me.
Of course.
Which is definitely a society problem, that people don't view female-bodied persons, whether you are cis, trans, non-binary. I'm non-binary. Like, if you appear female, people do not respect your space. But at FlameCon, people respect your space. Like, they will still bump into you, but they will be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I'll be like, "It's cool. It's fine." Like, and the fact that people will acknowledge you are a human being in this space. And that is really affirming, I think. Yeah, so like that continued. They are the con that definitely tries to be accessible as possible. A lot of they have like a whole range of mascots of different genders. I'm not sure about ethnicities, because they're all kind of like these weird rainbow children. But they have one like in a wheelchair. They have a drag queen version of the Flamies, is I think what they call them.
Yeah.
At this year's FlameCon, there was actually like a big banner about the history of FlameCon, because technically this is the 10th edition. Because they started in 2014, I want to say. The first one I went to was 2016.
Yeah.
So, and that was 3. So yeah, 2014. So technically it's 10 years, but this would make it the 11th edition. But let's not overthink that.
Originally it was in Brooklyn, right? At the so I remember the first time we went, it was at the Marriott, I believe, or Sheraton, or whatever that is.
It's the hotel that's on Brooklyn Bridge Plaza, basically.
Yep, exactly.
Which I really liked, to be honest. I like having a con in Brooklyn, like how close it is. And honestly, if it was still there, it'd be actually more convenient to my current apartment. Because when where I used to live and where you used to live was, we took the Q train and you would walk over from DeKalb Avenue. But now, like that, the Brooklyn Bridge Marriott, I could just get off the F train at York or the AC at High Street. But yeah, no, they're still in the same hotel, which is, I said, I think it's the Marriott Times Square. It's on 53rd Street. Are you muted? Sorry.
No, I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, your lips were moving and nothing was happening.
Oh well.
Yeah. So that was so like but however, even though it's in the same place, there were some changes. The first thing I noticed is they would not let people enter in the front of the hotel anymore. Only if you were like, did like guests, VIP disabled, like, could you come in through the front? They were directing people to 50, I want to say 4th Street, 50. No, I'm trying to do like the geography. It was on the other side of the building. It might have been 52nd Street, actually. I was a little annoyed because you actually had to go outside and go around. There was no way to actually access it from inside the building. So people had to go around, and it was raining, so that kind of sucked. And I don't feel like there was good messaging on why they were doing that, or even that you really had to do that. I saw exactly like one sign as I was walking in through the lobby. Yeah, no, but like once you were in and, I got my badge, this is still a fully masked event. You are required to wear a mask at all times. Honestly, FlameCon is perfectly in the right as far as I'm concerned, since WorldCon, which just ended, was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, people are reporting COVID.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are reporting COVID, and the DNC is also reporting a lot of COVID right now.
Right.
They expanded to multiple floors, which is probably good because it doesn't feel as cramped. However, the dealer's room is still in the same room, so that still has that weird thing of like you have to go up the stairs to get to the other half. And then there's like a community room, which is like you have to go down a short hallway to get to that section. So it still has a weird layout. And it also took me a while to kind of figure out where the panel rooms are, because now they've basically been removed to a separate floor.
You mentioned too with the with at least a couple of the panel rooms, sound isolation wasn't exactly a priority.
Yeah, so on my big negatives, and I already made it I told like three different people at the time. I didn't want to be a complete Karen, but I felt like it was worth noting. As I went to this one panel, I think it was Queer Eye on the Straight Canon, which was a fan panel. It wasn't really like an industry panel. There's nobody out, but I was like, you know what? Let me go sit down in the room and see how it is. The room was very small, which was always kind of like a red flag in terms of, when we talk about masking and infection and stuff. But I sat in the back, and the doors in the back, there were doors in the back, and they were like the doors to the room right next to it, and they weren't closed fully. And I actually stood up and see if I could try to get them to fit, and they wouldn't close. And there was sound leakage coming from that room because the doors weren't closed properly, and it was loud. Like the other room had amplification, but the room I was in had no mics.
Oy.
Which is, since we're talking about FlameCon and accessibility, every room, unless it's like a small circle and like the speaker is sitting in the middle of the circle, like we're talking like, unless it's like less than 20 people, every room should have sound amplification.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a must for any convention, period. If you don't have some sort of sound amplification, even if it's just one mic that you're passing around, that's better than having nothing.
Yeah, this has been acknowledged as an accessibility thing because some people have bad hearing. Even if you don't have bad hearing, it just kind of sucks when like somebody stands up to ask a question and they're shouting it into the void, and the only person who can hear them is the one on stage. And the protocol in those cases, usually the person on stage would repeat the question. But we don't have to. We can set up amplification. It's also better if you're recording the panel, because then the questions will be on the recording now. But yeah, they didn't have any sound amplification in that room, combined with the fact that the room next door had a lot of amplification. And I'm sitting there going, I could move up and possibly hear what they're saying, but I don't want to move closer to other people. And I shouldn't have to. So as I left the room, I told like three different people, like the person in the room, the one who kept looking nervously at the door where all the noise was coming from, and then the security staff were right outside. And then I went to the info desk and I said, you really need to work on that. That room should have amplification, and the door needs to be closed.
Yeah.
That is an accessibility issue. And considering, like, I will say I do hold FlameCon to a higher standard because they've made that part of their brand.
Right.
Like cons, I'll be honest, some cons are accessibility nightmares. FlameCon doesn't have to be, it doesn't want to be, it wants to be as inclusive as possible, which is why it has things like mascots that have, different abled characters. There's even a dog in there, a service dog. He's very cute. I've told in the past, like I've had these issues in the past, like we talked about the dimness in the room, which of course helps some people who get like sensory overload, and dimming the lights helps them. But then, of course, if you have low vision, then it's harder for you to see. Like FlameCon is a working example about how it's really hard to please everybody. But I think in this case, the sound amplification, I'm like, no, you need to fix that. People. Yeah.
No, I'll be honest with you. The fact that this is the 10th FlameCon, I would expect better from them at this point when it comes to at least like sound amplification and whatnot. It's like, yeah, sure, it might be a different setup than previous years, but it's still the same space. So,
they're using new rooms, but again, no panel room should ever go without that. Unless the room has like a maximum capacity of like 20 or 30 people, there should be some kind of sound system in there.
Absolutely.
Like this, it's for any con. This is every con on this goddamn planet. I'm going to say this. This is the like comic timing. We should say like comic timing says you should have microphones and speakers. God damn it. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. But I told them they're super apologetic about it. And I just went back to like the dealer's room to just look at more stuff. Like I wasn't going to die. In terms of panels I went to, like that one, that I bailed on. I went to one about gay sports comics, which had like 3 creators. And I don't know if you want to pull up the schedule while I'm talking, just to see who was on it. But because I remember one person did a comic about the baseball, World War II, the women, League of Their Own, we are the members of the All-American League. That song is burned into, I think, our entire generation's brains at this point, honestly.
Looks like it was Ellen Lindner, Jonah Newman, Kathy G. Johnson, and Cynthia Wan Cheng.
Yes, that's the panel. I actually went and like ordered as many of their books from the library as I could, as in I ordered whatever was available at the library, I ordered it, which is not everything. And that could be a whole separate podcast where I complain about how, so many things like zines and self-published stuff is not available to people. Like, I still feel like that's a barrier to entry. I understand that creators need to charge a certain amount for their books,
Sure.
but it does create a barrier towards people reading it. And I think libraries need to fill in that gap. So that's just like a side note. I know libraries are also under a lot of threat right now, but in a perfect world, they would go and buy thousands of zines, and then I can read thousands of zines for free because I don't have money for thousands of zines. Sorry, guys. I love zines, but I don't have money to pay all of you.
Very few people have enough money to buy all the zines, considering, as you said, it's be on the expensive side.
Yeah, no, like I tend to have I set a budget for myself at this. So I kept my purchases fairly low. This is the most expensive thing. I'm gonna unwrap it as soon as I can figure out how to open this little sleeve thing. Why? Why are you so hard? Ian could laugh at me. Here, ASMR.
Oh.
Listen to that.
We're not that type of podcast.
But we could be.
We're not that type of podcast. We're not.
So I purchased this. Let me see if it lines up. Yeah, you can see it.
Yep.
The Cerebro character file. This is a fanzine by charmgardens.com. I can see it right here. With drawing all the X-Men and Cerebro podcast episode order. Featuring, I'm not going to read off the whole list, but it's like Captain Britain, Nightcrawler, White King, Colossus, Storm, If I open it, you'll see these nice little drawings in it.
Ooh, very.
I think it's risographed. I really like risograph.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit, I am more willing to spend money on something, say that is like risograph, because I know that not only did you write and draw everything in it, but you also had to print it, or, you had to like rent time on a risograph machine and monitor the printing. And I really would love to learn how to do risograph printing at some point. So,
And for any of you who have not heard the term risograph before, now you have. So there we go.
Yeah, it's very more and more that AMSR. Sexy. I'm trying to put it. I'll put it back in later.
It's a brand of digital duplicators manufactured by Rizzo Kakagu Corporation. That's what a risograph is. Now,
Ian, you had no idea what that was before, did you?
None whatsoever, which is why I had to go to the Wikipedia to tell me what it was.
So, maybe we should do an episode about like printing and stuff. So risograph printers are expensive. You won't be able to access one. So you usually have to go to like a risograph printer or, you have to rent time or whatever. The printing quality kind of reminds me a little bit of like when we were kids. Why am I suddenly blanking on the name? Like, the smelly copies that your teacher used to give you that used to snort.
Yeah.
Why am I blanking on the name of that all of a sudden? Rexograph machine.
Got it.
Yeah, like I don't know if risographs smell, but it gives you like it has like a rough texture to it. The colors.
Looking at it now, it has soy ink for the most part. So they're using soy ink made from vegetable soybean oil as opposed to your standard ink. So maybe that's why it has that smell.
Yeah, it's got an interesting, like, I don't know about the smell, but it's like the colors, like here, the yellow is very bright. It has this weird, it's just, if you've ever seen risograph prints, first of all, you see a lot of neon ink in them, or like not even real neon ink, but like it has that intensity. And I think that's what a lot of people like them. It reminds them of old school printing, like old comics, right? How they were all like CMYK and you had the thin eye dots, right?
All the Kirby dots you could fit on a page, exactly.
Well, no, that's different, but yeah, the dots, so many dots. But anyway, yeah, like I'm more willing to spend money. That was $10. No, it was $15 actually. I'm sorry. It was $15, and I'm not even that willing to spend that much money on something like this. Usually I top out at $10 for a zine. I think what swayed me, and I'm realizing now, is because I don't know, you won't really be able to see this on the video too well, but this is copy number 4 out of 75.
Oh, okay.
Like I just happened to pick it up and I saw the 4 and I'm just like, so chances are copies 1 through 3 actually went to the printer or their friends. So this is like, I was like, fuck it. I'm going to buy it. I bought it.
Yeah.
I also buy I like those one sheet zines, the ones that you make out of folding one piece of paper. However, I do not like spending more than $1 on them. And I understand that, yes, people put a lot of effort into them, but at the same time, it's a single sheet. I don't like spending more than $1 on it.
Good. In general. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. I might go up to $2, but I've seen people sell them for $5, which is a little iffy. And I've seen people sell them sometimes for like $8 or $10, and that's just ridiculous to
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah. No,
You,
it's bad enough that a 22 page comic can sometimes cost $5. A 2 page print or something like that. Nah, nah, no, thank you.
yeah, no, like I mean, in general, like you and I have like going to like artist alleys for a while. And I will say, like, yeah, the dealer's room at FlameCon is really just one giant artist alley for the most part. There are a few companies like Drawn and Quarterly might show up, or First Second. I think they were there. I didn't really register them that much. But mostly it's going to be artist alley type people selling their like small books, which is kind of like what makes it exciting because it's, how do I think about this? Is like it's the same aesthetic as you would get at like an anime artist alley, but people are making more of an effort to actually make things.
Right.
And because it's FlameCon, people are actually saying something too.
It's a lot of like what I used to get at early days of Mocha Fest, to be honest with you. Talking about like, it's mostly an independent comic book, festival of sorts with a lot of, dealers hawking their wares, but it might be interesting and unique things that you wouldn't find at another space. And that's what makes shows like this so worthwhile is, the diversity of individuals selling their stuff.
Yeah, no, I remember a few years ago I bought the book, the zine. It was like Washington's Gay General, and now it's a full book. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look. It's Josh Trujillo.
Okay.
He did as a zine, and I bought the zine, and the zine wasn't that expensive. I think it was under $10, and it was nicely printed, so I was willing to spend the money. But then, he actually sold the book. I think it might have been last year. I did, it was a hardcover book. I paid $25. I got him to sign it. It was really worth it. I do feel like that. Yeah, that's the other thing with FlameCon is that, yeah, the artists are right there. You can get things signed right on the spot. Like I will see people that I see online and they feel more accessible at FlameCon. And I think a part of it is, let's be honest, it is the queer vibe. It's the gaydar. It's the secret gay agenda. Like that's the secret gay agenda is that we all go to this con so we can get our books signed while you straight people have to go to New York Comic Con and wait on a long line.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Clearly, yeah, that's the real gay agenda.
Makes sense to me. Let's put it on a t-shirt. No, wait, no, don't put it on a t-shirt because then it won't be a secret anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's the funny thing about like secret tip or whatever. And I'm like, now it's not secret anymore. Why did you do that? Don't do that. But yeah, like it was fine. I was there for 4 hours, which is probably the same amount of time I was there last year. The year before that, I wasn't feeling well, so I pretty much was in and out. I had already bought the badge, and then I woke up that morning feeling like shit. So I was just like, I have to go because I already spent $40. It's $40 for Saturday. I think Sunday might be the same price. It's not, which isn't terrible, but I will say FlameCon needs better programming. Because, like, I know in previous years, you've gone and seen Jay and Miles. You really like Jay and Miles.
One of my favorite panels, and I don't know if it was on the schedule. I'll have to look. Is there used to be a fashion panel for the X-Men that I would go to every year.
Yeah, I did not see that. I know that one of the people who was usually on it was T Berry Blue, who is an acquaintance of ours and Jay's wife or spouse. I don't really know what term they use for each other, but I think they are husband and wife in that at least, but spouses. But T used to be on it. I think was Chris Anka on it at least one year, or am I just imagining that?
Yeah, Chris Anka's been on it. Kevin Wada was on it one year. So yeah, they've definitely had a nice range of artists over the years. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Chris Anka was at this year's FlameCon. There was a panel. I think they were talking about animation.
Okay.
So it was Chris Anka in conversation with ND Stevenson.
Ooh, nice.
Stevenson. Sorry, like my mouth went bleep on that one. But that was kind of nice. That was like the other panel I went to, and it was just chill, and they were just talking about I did not realize Chris Anka had a background in animation, to be honest. I never really gave much thought to him. He was just a guy, like I saw some of his comics, I saw his art on Tumblr, and I was like, ooh, that's cool.
It's more recent because I know he worked on the Spider-Verse movies.
Yes, though I think he did do some stuff before he got in the comics. At least that was the suggestion I got from the panel. Maybe I misheard, people can correct me if you want, but it sounded like he did some stuff and then he got kind of dragged into the comics and then he got sent back out into the animation world when it came to Spider-Verse. And he's like really happy to be in Spider-Verse, even though he also admits there were some problems you heard about, like the creators being overworked. They also asked him, like, people asked him, like, what would you want to like reboot? You know, because NBC Stevenson did She-Ra. But they're like, but there's nothing obscure anymore, was like their answer, because you feel like you should do something obscure that nobody cares about or heard of, and we've kind of tapped it out. Somebody brought up Thundercats, and they're like, Thundercats is just cursed.
Well, then do Silverhawks.
I was tempted to shout that one out, but I didn't even watch Silverhawks. Silverhawks was just the show they put on when they ran out of Thundercats, and then I got mad because I didn't want to watch some rip-off Thunder. Like, I was like, that's the same voices. I'm 5 when this is happening, and I would just get mad. You know.
Yeah, it was quite literally just, let's take Thundercats and make them hawks instead of cats, and go from there, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like children's television has always been really interesting in that aspect because they think children are morons, and let's be honest, people still think children are morons in a lot of cases. You look at auto-generated children's content, or you know what? No, actually, what's really pissing me off lately, and it is like AI-generated children's books. People are like, oh, I want to write a children's book. I'll have AI do it.
Yeah.
And even before that, people will be like, I want to write a book. I'll write a children's book, because they think it's not that hard.
It's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard. You have to please children. You know how hard that.
You have to do so much with fewer words. People think less words equals easy. I'm like, no. Every word you put in that book is doing like 100 times, the labor. Yeah. There's a reason why, like, none of these books written by celebrities are classics. Like, nobody's really talking about the books that I'm trying to think of, like random names, Candace Cameron Bure. I'm sure she wrote something, or, I'm just like give me some random name, like Tyra Banks. Did Tyra Banks write a book? I have no idea. She probably did. Everybody did at this point.
Tyra Banks did. I mean, hey, Stephen Colbert did, and Stephen Colbert's was good. So that's
Stephen Colbert's was. Well, if you're talking about the poll thing, that was a parody anyway. I know Jimmy Fallon has a children's book. I keep seeing it in the NBC Experience store anytime you now. I don't remember if they always did this, Ian. I don't know, because we went to Seth Meyers together. I don't remember if they did this back then. But when I left, I went to see Tonight Show and Seth Meyers this summer. And both times, when they chuck you out of the studio, they dump you right into the gift shop.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, they give you a little card with the logo of the show on it, and you get like a discount. The discount is good until December 31st. So I kept the things anyway, even though I don't really want to buy anything, because I'm like, I don't know, maybe at Christmas I might change my mind. But yeah, they dump you right into the gift shop.
Of course. Exit through the gift shop. I mean, that has to be the case even with these things. You have to buy things so that they can continue to fire the band. That's absolutely what you should do. Give them more money so that they can spend less money. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no. When I went, I saw Seth Meyers. He still had the band. It was the second to last week of it, so it was the week before Fed Armisen came back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, FlameCon. I do think expanding actually worked for them. There's a lot of the stair situation is a little confusing, because you remember how they take escalator after escalator, and they're like these really enclosed, cramped escalators. Mm-hmm. That has not improved, even though, again, they have more space, and I think that's good for airflow, people flow. It makes it feel less crowded, I guess, though it might have just been less crowded, because, again, they still require a mask, and I think that's depressing their attendance. And it might be hurting the quality of their panels too, because, again, I remember the panels just were better. They felt like they were better, because we did have stuff like the fashion panel or Jay and Miles. I think Cerebro was there, but other than that, I didn't see anybody I would even consider vaguely big. I mean, aside from the Krisenka and the Stevenson talk, and that was not even that full. Like, there were more people than some of the other panels, but it was still really empty, and it's sad. And because I think FlameCon needs to grow, it needs to continue to exist, and
I mean, maybe they could do something like moving to the Metropolitan Pavilion where Mocha Fest is every year. If there's the space for them, it's possible that might actually work for them. I know it's a bigger space and has actual dedicated like panel rooms and whatnot, so that could possibly be a direction.
Yeah, I feel like they don't want to leave Manhattan. That's a big thing because I honestly liked the Brooklyn location better, but I understand that getting to Manhattan is a lot easier for more people. Because honestly, what I would have suggested is the Brooklyn Expo Center in Greenpoint. But that, let's be honest, people don't want to go out to Brooklyn. And this summer, it would have been a death sentence because of the G train. So, yeah, for people who are not in New York or just don't give a shit about Brooklyn, even if you are in New York, is that the Greenpoint, that being the neighborhood next to Williamsburg, which is, of course, hipster central. Greenpoint, the only train that goes there is the G train, and the G train is not running this summer because they are doing computer in computer based train control, I believe is what it's called, CBTC, so that they will be able to run, like have a computer track where all the trains are and basically space them out and time them, because most trains in New York City still run on a system from literally like 1904. We're not even joking.
Yep, exactly. I've seen the videos and I've seen the articles about how, they have to basically salvage parts from things from quite literally 1904 in order to keep this running, because a lot of basically a lot of the parts are not actually manufactured anymore. So it's hard to keep that up.
Well, that's the problem. But again, like now we're turning into, transit timing, actually, quite literally, because I'm talking.
And by the way, just because you mentioned Brooklyn Expo Center closed in 2022. So
I didn't even know.
The only reason I remember it is because it got replaced by a professional ninja training facility.
That's depressing because I will say, having been to multiple shows there, remember Waka Waka was like a weird anime con thing one year. I've also been to, I think it was the Bust Craftacular. I don't know if I've been to any other events there, but yeah, no, I'm just saying we're transit timing now, and quite literally, because Ian's talking about salvaging parts, and like I feel like, yeah, we're just going to educate all of you non-New Yorkers on how shitty our system is. The big issue that they are fixing with this is the fact that the way trains are spaced out is that the track is divided into blocks. And if anything, like if the back of a train, the front of a train is even slightly on one of those blocks, it's considered occupied. Mm-hmm. So even if a train stops and it's the last foot of the train, like the train's ass is just sticking slightly into the previous block, it's still considered occupied. And mind you, like the blocks are the length of a train. So we're talking about, they're like 2 blocks long. So they're like 1,000 feet. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. Maybe not 1,000, but 500 to 1,000 feet. Like they are very long blocks. And the thing is, while it's considered occupied, they can't run another train into it, which means that, yeah, like I said, if a train is stopped, they can't move a train right behind it. Trash might fall on the track and it reads as occupied. That's where our biggest problems are. Like if you've ever been stuck on a train, they say, debris on the tracks. That's exactly what they're talking about. They literally cannot drive over it because the system thinks there's a train there. Yep. So they're replacing it with the computers will keep track of the actual trains themselves. It doesn't care if there's a can on the track. We will run over it.
And to sort of tie it back into our main convention discussion here of Anime NYC, one of the problems about Saturday and Sunday at Anime NYC was, let's just talk about trains for one more time, which is the fact that the 7 train was doing its 7 train shenanigans this weekend and only running a shuttle every 10 minutes, literally one stop from 34th to 42nd, forcing people to then transfer to other trains in order to get to Queens. Anybody who was coming from Queens was basically screwed this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of made it out okay because both of us could get to, trains that would get us where we needed to go.
It still sucked. Let me finish off just saying, maybe we should just finish up with FlameCon, then we can move into Anime NYC.
Yeah.
But saying I went to with the G train not running. That did actually affect Stationary Fest. That's why it was crazy that there were so many people there in the middle of the week when the train wasn't running. I coming home, it took me an hour to get home. And mind you, I live in Brooklyn. This location was also in Brooklyn. Yeah, that seems to be the pain of convention life in New York City is
Oh
we are not allowed to have reliable transit.
no.
Because anybody who's ever been to New York Comic Con, how many times have you gone to New York Comic Con and the 7 train was not running?
Oh, ever since they built the 7 line, I swear to God, it's been 50% of the time that it's not actually running on New York Comic Con weekend just to screw with us.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, man, come on.
It will always run. It will always run just fine during the US Open
Yes.
and for most Mets games.
Yeah.
But if it's New York Comic Con, F you. Or this one time they also screwed up BTS concert. They didn't run the 7 train to Shea, and there was a BTS concert.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking?
Well, because
Yeah.
they don't think about people that are going to 34th Street, even though they quite literally built that station so that it would have better access to the Javits and to Hudson Yards. And if you're having a big event at the Javits, run the train to Javits. It makes sense. But, New York City doesn't make any sense. We're used to it by now.
Yeah, no, I would love to see because they always do it on weekends. I would love to see the ridership on a weekday versus the weekend because I feel like with New York Comic Con, I would almost certainly guarantee the ridership is heavier on the weekend.
Absolutely.
Like if they have to do the track work, do it Monday through Thursday before the con, or rather now Monday through Wednesday. I keep forgetting that, or rather just Monday and Tuesday because now there's this preview night on Wednesday or whatever it is.
They're doing they're doing a professional day on, I believe, the Wednesday. Yes. And it's not even really going to be a professional. It's not a full day. It's just like all the parties that they're throwing are going to be
It's preview night. It's preview night.
basically. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I always thought it was funny. San Diego's had preview night for a while, and it's really funny how preview night kind of stretched into preview day.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean much anymore.
It's not just for professionals anymore either with San Diego. With New York, at least, that Wednesday is just going to be for professional badges, and I don't even know if press could even get in. I think it's just professional.
I haven't checked. I did get a few for a press badge, so we shall see. But anyway, yes, I guess, are you ready to talk about Anime NYC, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely the case. And this is I think the second year that I've gone all 3 days to the con. And it's not because I don't enjoy anime. It's because there's usually not a lot to make me want to go there. And we go back to the issue of scheduling, which we will be discussing on this one way or the other.
So I feel like I need to mention last year I only went on the Friday.
Yeah.
I had fully intended to go Friday, Saturday. Sunday, I actually had I go play tabletop with people in Wonderville. But what happened Saturday, again, I think this is honestly kind of hilarious because I leave my apartment, I get on the train, I'm on the train. The train is going very slow, like it has stopped in the tunnel. It stays in the station. At some point, I realize I do not have my badge. And I was like, well, I'm only technically halfway through this trip. I might as well just go back and get it. And I get off. I turn around. The train sits in the station. The train doesn't come. The train takes forever. So I roll into my house. I see the badge, and I'm just like, fuck it, and just didn't leave again. The MTA kills it, but honestly, the fact that I did not feel that motivation at all.
It's fine. Yeah, and I mean, you got a full day in, and you got to enjoy it. This time around, both of us did Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and there was actually reason for me to attend this time around. And it wasn't. I think that there were just enough panels to keep me interested, and also I'll fully admit it's time of year because up until this point, and we will definitely discuss this in further detail. We might as well do it now.
We're discussing it now.
Up until this point, Anime NYC was in November, near Thanksgiving usually. Sometimes, in fact, I think there might have even been one that was technically in December or rolled over into December. But nonetheless, it's usually in the dead of winter here in New York. And Anime NYC,
Winter?
Yes, winter.
It's not even Thanksgiving yet. It's late fall, man.
It has been freezing some of those weekends in November, and I remember for that because there were times the 7 train was not running and I had to walk my ass over from, from 34th Street, and I froze my patoot in the process. So it was cold enough, let's put it that way, cold enough to be uncomfortable and to stop people maybe from attending. And also because it's close to Thanksgiving, there still might be people out of town, or there's people who might not be attending because they already, spent all their money on turkey and whatnot. Like
it's usually before, because for me, it was always the weekend before, which was not great. Was it 2021? I got sick at Anime NYC, and I wasn't sure if it was COVID or not. I eventually did get tested, and it wasn't COVID, but I still went to Thanksgiving because apparently I'm an asshole, but nobody got sick.
Well,
so,
good.
Like my aunt with cancer did not get COVID.
Good.
So I was assuming it was not COVID. I was just shitty.
I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, it's been just about that same weekend in November. Actually, now looking at it, the weekend of like November 17th to 19th, and then the 16th to 18th, yada yada yada. So that same general weekend, it has been up until this very point where it happened on August 23rd to 25th instead.
Yeah, which makes so I'll say it makes sense in some aspects in that it is still summer. The kids are out of school, which opens them up for the Friday. They can come on Friday. College kids, it's not. I mean, some of them might not be back if they're if they live away. If they live in a dorm, they might not have gone back to school yet. I don't know, because some start earlier. It's weird. The problem for me is, like, as an NYU student, NYU doesn't start their year until after Labor Day, because that's just the way we are in New York. Mm-hmm. So that, like, there's some advantages to that. Like I said, yeah, people can take their kids without having to like cut school. They don't have to wait till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock to show up at the con on a Friday. They don't have to be crammed in on the Saturday. The downside of this time of year, I think this is the biggest time, is the weather.
Yes.
We luckily have had a very mild week here in New York, but just a few weeks ago, it was Satan's armpit, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it was above 90 degrees up until about like a week and a half ago, when suddenly the heat broke, and it was relatively broken throughout that full weekend. But I think the high was something like 84 or something like that.
Yeah, it went back up, because I would say just a week and a half ago, I was shivering in my apartment. Like, I literally was putting on my hoodies.
Hey.
But during the con, it was, I would say, the quintessential perfect New York weather, where it's between 75 and 80. The sun is out. There's a nice breeze. So Left Field Media, that's the people who run Anime NYC, but like Anime NYC is just very lucky this year. Like, that their first time doing a summer convention, they managed to get like really good weather. Because especially with the 7 train not running, I can't imagine the stink of that con if people had to walk.
Oh God.
all the way over to the Javits in that weather, and then wandering around a convention hall. The AC is working overtime. Like, it just would have been hell. Honestly, I wore a mask because, like I said, I'm past fucking around to find out when it comes to conventions. But yeah, had the heat been up, like, it would have been justified. You should have worn a mask, because then you don't want to smell that. You do not want to smell that. We lucked out. We really lucked out with this, even if the fucking MTA continues to screw us year after year when it comes to conventions at the Javits.
And it could have been worse. Could have been not running at all. But at least they had the decency to run the shuttle from 34th to 42nd, which part of me wonders if they did that solely because of the convention.
Maybe, but the problem I generally have, and this is a larger complaint about New York City, about, it's not just the MTA, the DOT, is the fact that there are buses that go to the Javits. There's the M34 and the M42. But you notice we never tell you to take those. People do not take them. Why? Because they get stuck in traffic. They take forever to go. You can probably walk faster. And it should not be that way. You should be able to get on the bus and be at the convention within 5 minutes. And you can't. And the thing is, some time ago, they did actually propose making 34th Street and 42nd Street into busways, where only buses would be allowed to go down them. And of course, people complain, like, well, what about the elderly? How are they supposed to get to their Broadway shows? And I'm just like fucking walk like everybody else. Mind you, when I don't know how other cities do it, but in New York, like, we have some busways. 14th Street is a busway. which they complained about, and they said the same things, like, "Oh, my business, but I need people to be able to drive my business." Nobody's driving to your business if you have a business on 14th Street. They're taking the fucking Q train. Like they were saying, "Oh, what about the old people?" And I'm like, the old people seem to be doing just fine. Because mind you, he's not here right now, but Raph is actually a perfect example of why you need a busway. Because one of Raph's major lifelines in Manhattan is the M14.
Yes.
The M14A and the M14D, they go on 14th Street, but they used to run super slow. And then they basically, when they made it into a busway, sorry, I meant to explain this. Only cars are allowed, but they must turn off at the first available intersection. Mm-hmm. They are only allowed to turn onto the busway if they are dropping off or picking up, basically. Yeah. Like they cannot use it as a throughway. Some people do. I wish I could kill them with my mind, but so far, like that's what here in Brooklyn, there's Fulton Mall has been doing that for 30 years, and it worked just fine. Mm-hmm. And then they proposed it for 14th Street, and people complained, and everybody had to point at Fulton Street and be like, "We've been doing it for 30 years. Shut up." Yeah. So the fact is, it is working on 14th Street, and they should be doing it on 34th Street and 42nd Street and it's not even just to make the buses run faster. Even though this would have been a great trial to be like, "No, we need to run these buses." Like New York Comic Con would be a great time to try it.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. No, we need through traffic because thousands of people are going to be visited, and you could say, well, it's only for this weekend. But then, you could say later on, hey, it works so well. It's also 42nd Street. Ian knows you try to walk down the sidewalk and it's super crowded. People are walking in the street anyway.
Well, let's get to crowds though, and at least in relation to Anime NYC, last year and every single year of the show, attendance has gone up. In 2017, 20,000 estimated paid to attend Anime NYC. That's over the full weekend. That's not a day score. This is combined entries. So, do that as you will. Last year in 2023 in November, they got 60,000 unique.
Jesus.
Here in 2024, for one thing, they were able to fill the entire Javits. They didn't do Javits North. Javits North is the extension that any of you have listened to my New York Comic Con, wrap-ups before. We've explained before that they extended the Javits. It used to be a one-floor pavilion, and now it's a multiple-floor pavilion with a brand new show floor. You can host panels in there and stuff like that. They didn't utilize that for Anime NYC this time around. I have a feeling if this continues to grow like this, you may very well see them utilize that in future years. But there were definitely more than 60,000 people there this year because they were able to use the entire con. There were no main areas of the Javits at all.
So, yeah, like I've been to so many different shows at the Javits. I was about to say earlier that like it sucks going to fandom shows now that you've been to industry events like Toy Fair.
Yeah.
Where it's not crowded. There's never a line for the bathroom. The food places don't run out of food. Like it's a goddamn wonderland.
It is. It really is.
But like, yeah, no, because you know what? My number one complaint, anytime I have to go to the Javits Center, like I'm like, I cannot drink water the entire time I'm there because then I got to go to the bathroom and the bathroom situation is awful. Even for dudes, it's not great. But for women, there's always just that long ass line waiting for 3 stalls. The bathrooms are dubiously clean at this point because thousands of people have used them. Javits North is a goddamn miracle because it has bigger bathrooms and they are clean and well lit. So yeah, like the bathroom situation is not improved. It still sucks. I could talk about this for hours, how much it pisses me off.
Yes,
I do.
We will not talk about bathrooms for hours. We will not.
I will make the suggestion that maybe Anime NYC needs to go gender neutral for its bathrooms.
I'm surprised they haven't at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, because I mean, if I don't see a line in the men's room, like I'm not that brave to just walk into a men's room and drop trow in a stall or whatever. But like, I feel like some people would be more emboldened if you just made all the bathrooms, gender neutral and just said it was okay. Like ladies just go and pee in the stall in the men's room. Yes, men are filthy. I'm sorry, guys. Your bathrooms are disgusting, but it's better than the women's rooms start to get kind of grody anyway. Like I said, thousands of people. And I would love to see the gender breakdown on Anime NYC,
Hey, there were times when I, as a guy, had to wait on lines to use the bathroom here at New York at New York Comic Con and Anime Fest, and Anime NYC for that matter, depending on the time of day and which bathroom I choose to go to. Because sometimes I huff it and I go to all the way to the opposite end of Javits in order to use the bathroom, and then I'm okay and I'm good. If I go straight where the panel rooms are, then chances are I'm going to have to wait a little bit because that's where everybody's going to pee. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is about the length of time we are going to discuss peeing on this episode. So there we go.
Well, I mean, I will just give my general advice. Like Ian says, go to the far ends of the convention. If you're going to an event in the main events hall at Javits, that has its own bathroom, so that is a great place to go pee or poop if necessary. And Javits North is fucking Valhalla, of bathrooms there. It's glorious. You just have to fight your way there because you literally have to walk the entire length of the convention center. That's the end of the bathroom talk, Ian. You have to give people advice,
Yes. That is very true. You're that good point there. But
this is why you subscribe to our Patreon. We tell you where to pee.
Absolutely. I want to point out this photo that I'm displaying to those on the YouTube was taken on Friday. This is not Saturday's crowd. And when I entered on Friday, it was already about, I'd say maybe about 4 o'clock when I got there, if I remember correctly, on Friday. And there were a lot of people there, to the point where I kind of feel like there might have even been more people there on Friday than there were on Saturday.
I believe I might have messaged you to that effect, where I said there was it was a lot less crowded on Saturday. Not that it was empty, it was still full, still a Saturday level crowd, but Friday was just packed. Friday was squeezing past people in the dealer's room, longer lines for the bathrooms. It was everything I hate about conventions, just that, that sheer wall of people. I mean, I don't really know why. My theories would be because it is summer. Mm-hmm. These are high school students and college students, and they can go because they do not have school or work that day. Mm-hmm. That is just a theory. I'm just throwing that out there. But we have to remember, anime cons still very much are a youth oriented thing. I've seen so many people age out of them. I am shocked. I feel like I'm getting back into anime now. I'm trying to watch more shows. But I think, again, switching to the summer is partly to get those young crowds, to get them when they're not busy with school.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And there's a positive and a negative to the time change as well, because as we said, there's a bunch of conventions that happen in August. There's a bunch of anime conventions that happen in July and August, including Anime Expo.
The big two, yeah.
Anime Expo and Otakon both happen around the same time as Anime NYC, and we know. Last year, when we were talking to some people who, were exhibiting at the con, they were trepidatious because they were like, I don't know how many big companies are going to want to, schlep their stuff out to New York this soon after being in being in DC for Otakon and whatnot, and maybe they actually want to sleep a little bit, So
we're going into that right now. The first thing I was thinking about, so right before we started recording, I was actually filling out do I even still have? Did I finish it? I'm confused now. I was filling out the survey they send, the post-con survey that they send to everybody. And they were asking hey, what other shows do you go to? And of course they have Anime Expo and Otakon on there. And then they were asking you to actually compare to those other cons. How do you feel about your experience with companies at Anime NYC versus Otakon or versus Anime, Expo? They ask you if you go to those cons first, and then they just rank up. And the funny thing is, what cons are on this list, the survey list, was really interesting because they did have stuff like ASEN and Anime North. They put FlameCon on there, which I thought was, I guess, why they wanted to see if FlameCon was actually going to be a problem for them. It clearly was not. They do not put PAX on there, weirdly enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's a far enough away issue. Well, that and also that at least the others are kind of at least anime adjacent, and I wouldn't quite say that for a gaming con. And
Well, we will talk about that shortly because we do have some gaming stuff to talk about. But since we're talking about the companies not wanting to come back, and the thing is though, is that so Viz was there, Crunchyroll, right? Not
Crunchyroll is a sponsor of the con, so they were there.
Yeah, so Aniplex had their giant thing. Trying to remember who else was there. Like Seven Seas had a booth. It was okay. But I do feel like it was a little emptier because I'm just like, wait, who even localizes anime anymore? Because I remember it used to be just like wall to wall, like all these different companies.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know what? A lot of anime at this point, if you're not Crunchyroll, you're Netflix. And that's how most people consume their anime. It's either Hulu, Crunchyroll, Netflix. Those are the three things that immediately come to my brain.
And Hulu had ads.
Yeah.
Netflix, I have no idea. That was on the server. They were asking, "Oh, did you notice this brand at Anime NYC?" Netflix, and I'm like, "Did I? I don't think I saw any signs for Netflix. I definitely saw Hulu."
Netflix did because they had the banner promoting the final season of Beastars and a bunch of other stuff on one of the up to the Crystal Pavilion. So they were definitely.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that because you were like, "Ooh, Beastars." You know, we talked about that a little bit. Oh yeah, no. For anybody who's ever been to the Javits, Anime NYC is yet another convention that has no idea how to use the Crystal Palace and the River Pavilion.
Yes.
They turned it into a cosplay area. And getting up there was fine. Like I've had cons where you can't even get up onto that platform to go into the pavilions. But once you were in there, it was just pure hell. It was like a cosplay area. There were a lot of little setups, like dioramas for people to, pose in front of.
There's the because I realized it was in my photo that I have. So there's the ad for Tomb Raider, Arcane 2, and Beastars that was visible.
Yeah. So there was a stage, very shoddy. I don't know why they always put that in the middle, because then of course it blocks traffic flow to the places behind it. There was like, once you hit the River Pavilion, that's all the way in the back, with with all the windows, and you can look out over the Hudson River. Half of that was some kind of pro lounge. I wasn't sure if press were even allowed in there. I didn't even try because I'm a chicken shit. The other side was like a cosplay lounge, which was supposed to be only for cosplayers, but nobody was really was policing that. So we just went in and sat down for a few minutes. What sucks about the pro side is that is one of the bigger bathrooms in that part of Javits.
Yes.
Sorry to bring you right back to bathrooms, but that pissed me off too.
No, I agree, because that's also why there were such huge lines for basically any cosplayer who needed to use the bathroom had only two options.
They do not do like people are saying, well, oh, they should have better bathrooms with all the cosplayers. And I wanted to be like, first off, if you have to change your outfit, they did have little booths for that. Whether or not the booths are actually well equipped for that, that's a whole other matter. But they do have an area to change your costumes. Yes, yeah. Preferably, I would love to see, that they have some basic furniture in there, and a mirror is what you really need.
Sure. Yeah.
And that should have been near the bathrooms. Like maybe have a bath that's just for cosplayers. I hate to say it, because they're going to be like, after, it takes forever to take everything off so you can pee and then put it back on. I don't even like dudes. Maybe it's easy. It depends on your costume, honestly. But if you have to take stuff off, it's easier. Just give people their own bathroom if they're just going to take forever. Like the family lanes at airports.
Yeah. Well, and cosplay is that much more important for an anime con than it is for a comic convention. There's tons of cosplay at a comic convention, but I feel like the anime con has evolved in a lot of ways into a cosplay con for people that are either trying their stuff out or they just want to display their wares or whatnot, or just dress up in as many costumes as they can on the weekend. I personally feel like I see it more at an anime con than I do at a comic con even now. I think it's baked into the culture at this point. It is,
partly because the word cosplay, we took it from Japanese. Yes, it is costume, but they created the word, this portmanteau where they merged costume and play together, and they started saying cosplay, and then we started using it. So it's kind of baked into the culture, and we don't have a lot of dedicated costume cons, even though we probably should. I think people would probably love that. Like just like with Anime Next, where you had all these like fake lakes and the bridge. People would take photos by them. I think you could do really well if you like found a hotel that had some really nice like forest-y type stuff outside of it. People would lose their shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's baked into the culture. The problem is that you lean into you're like, okay, people love cosplay, let's do a lot of cosplay stuff. When you're not a cosplayer, you do start to feel like second rate.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's never a good vibe at a con.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Anime NYC in particular, I think does a good job of balancing it a little bit because, yeah, I mean, a lot of the cosplay stuff was happening upstairs, and then downstairs in the main area, was everything else. However, one thing that isn't cosplay that did take up a large amount of space on the floor was all the like hololive stuff.
Yeah.
Which
I have a question. Were you familiar or even know what hololive was before this con?
yes, I did. I
Okay.
did only because this isn't the first year that they've showed up at Anime NYC in one form or another, and it also has taken over the freaking internet, at least in the anime circles in a lot of ways, where this basically lip sync.
Yeah, let's explain. First of all, hololive is a company. And so VTubing, for those people who are not familiar with it, is like, as Ian was saying, it's an animated avatar that performs, like, it'll show up on the screen. You don't see the real human behind it, but the human will, like the webcam will be pointed at them. And then the little animated avatar will like do everything that the VTuber is doing behind the scenes. Yeah. There are, like, again, they're called VTubers because you see them on YouTube, and they like virtual tuber. Hatsune Miku is not really a VTuber, I wouldn't say.
I feel like I feel like Hatsune Miku was the beginning, though, in a lot of ways.
I mean, so like the thing about Hatsune Miku is she's actually not like just an animated avatar. She's also like a package of voice clips that you can manipulate into performing songs.
That's true.
Like people have used Hatsune Miku and like written their own songs and stuff with them. And Hatsune Miku has done concerts, but mind you, when Hatsune Miku is doing a concert, like there's like screens, there might be like a hologram. She's been on, I want to say Letterman.
Yes.
When Letterman was still a thing. If not Letterman, she was on Colbert. She was in the Ed Sullivan Theater at some point. I just don't remember if it was before Letterman left or it was when Colbert took over. But I know she was at the Ed Sullivan Theater at some point. Yes. But VTubers, like, I mean, but yeah, they're usually like these kind of stiff talking heads, to be honest. And hololive is one of the biggest companies. They have this whole stable of VTuber characters that, they have personalities, they have drama. Honestly, it's a lot like wrestling.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Like you invent these dramas, you invent these personalities, and these there's a lot of backstage, stuff going on. I mean, I would say, yeah, definitely. We know that even though there's a human being performing this, we still get the kayfabe into it a lot. But yeah, like as Ian is about to, I'll let Ian talk about it, but there was a giant hololive stage right in the front of the goddamn exhibition hall.
Yeah, and by the front, we mean the front. I didn't get pictures of it, but when you first entered that main section of the dealer's room, the main exhibition hall, you were immediately met with all these people lined up watching VTuber performances, sometimes with, like light up wands and stuff like that so that they could, move their...
Honestly, you can pull up a picture real quick because they did it last year too. So there's some pictures online.
But either basically because of the location, it was kind of a choke, where you had to go buy all of them in order to actually get further into the hall, and not a good position at all. It moving forward, I would definitely put them in their own space. So that, I mean, not to section them off from everybody, but at the same time, it would do a good job of stopping you from having to like move out of the way of everything in order to get by. This is a picture that I found of, I believe, last year.
It's last year, but it's roughly the same setup. When you have like the VTuber on there, you have the people with the little wands. Yeah. The booth this year was more enclosed, like it had these blue walls around the screen, so it was even more imposing. Mm-hmm. Like it had the logos, the hololive logo on it.
It
Yeah.
did, yeah. And also, I mean, and this isn't just because we knew some of the people who were, set up directly next to the booth, but it kind of took away from everything around it in a lot of.
Well, I would say, whoever actually did the booth placement is a sadistic piece of shit. Because yeah, so our friends at Denpa were like directly across the aisle from the hololive booth, which again is like chicks on the screen talking and singing and doing a call and response with the audience. It's auditory hell if you are within range of that. Like Denpa and other booths nearby. Like, how are they going to sell things if you
Yeah.
just have this shouting and it's funny because yes, some of our friends they actually do like Hololive. They were gonna go to like the concerts and stuff, but it sucks. Like, why would you put manga booths? Because I think Yen Press was also super close to them, as was the Copic Markers booth, which there is
Yeah.
a Copic Markers booth at Anime NYC. I'm sure Comfort and Adam would be very pleased to hear this. you know, uh,
And,
but
and on top of that, like the concert that they had on the Saturday, if I remember correctly, completely sold out and had been sold out for months. So they have a large amount of people that are probably going to this con solely to go to that concert afterwards. Like they walk around for a few hours and then they do that and then they probably don't come back any other days. Which I would.
I can see it kind of drives me nuts because like you say, yeah, if they're gonna go to the concert anyway, that means you could put the booth almost anywhere. And if I were to choose a place in the Javits to put it, I might put it at the very south end, when you go down the stairs.
Mhm, mhm.
Because we never even went into that area of the convention, like to see if there was anything there, because that's where yeah, if you enter the Javits and you go to your left, there's like the set of stairs, and then there's like a sunken lobby.
Mhm.
Uh, in previous years, I know at New York Comic Con, I remember there was like a Warner Brothers exhibit there. They had like Batman costumes.
Yeah, DC would put all their costumes for all the upcoming movies there and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then like because that area there's an escalator and the rooms on that side are actually really small. So you're not doing a lot of events on that side if you're an event on the scale of Anime NYC or New York Comic Con. Like they will do stuff. Usually that's for when conferences have breakout rooms, and people want to have like these one-to-one meetings, to do business type stuff.
Right.
So I think at a convention that is honestly it's a free square. You can that's why Warner Brothers probably put the Batman costumes there because like people are going to go down there anyway to go check it out. The thing is, I could see Hololive not wanting to do that because they want to be seen. They want people to see it. They want more people to get into Hololive. I understand this. I also think it doesn't matter because to me hololive is everywhere now. Like I hang out a lot on itch.io and there's so many hololive fan games on there. There's probably hololive fan games on Steam too. I don't know. It's like it's hard to be in the anime space and not be tangentially aware of hololive. I don't think a large booth with like a girl singing kind of off key a little is going to endear anyone to your brand.
No, it's not.
It was not appealing to me at all. Yeah.
Well, but at the same time, and I mean, just because we were talking to a bunch of other people, it's like some of the things they put on were louder than others, and they were more intrusive than others. But it made me not want to walk by that area of the con that much. And it might be the old man in me, get off my lawn or yada yada yada. But like, yeah, separate them off, have them have their own space, and you will free up a lot of room in the exhibition hall that you could put more booths in, that you can not have to scream over each other in order to hear what the hell is going on, and you'll probably make the dealers a little bit happier in the process. Although I'm sure that they also probably got a bunch of people that were walking around that then went to other booths because they were in the general area. So it's a crapshoot whether or not.
Yeah, I don't know what the sales are like for the booths nearby. Yen Press wasn't too far from them, and Yen Press still seemed to like mostly sell out.
They did.
Like I went there on Friday and they were still pretty full stock, but by the time I was there on Saturday, I was like looking around and like stuff had been moved around because they had already sold out of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Which actually will take me into another thing is we were talking about like how do companies feel about having yet another con in the summer? And usually like besides having the booths on the floor, one of the other signs is who has a panel and what do they talk about at that panel?
Yes.
And In terms of anime, I don't recall very many announcements being made.
Mhm.
There were some sporadic manga announcements,
There were.
including at one of the panels I went to. The it was the one. It was one of the ones with Deb Aoki. I think you were there for that,
Yes.
and they actually made like almost like a surprise announcement, like, "Oh yeah, this got licensed." Now I'm
Oh,
trying to remember because we went to Sunday was like the history of manga panel. You were late. I think you missed that one. We went to the yokai panel. It might have been at the yokai panel,
I,
honestly.
you might be right on that one, but don't quote
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Like that's one thing I kind of appreciated. I feel maybe it's been like this every year and I just haven't noticed, but this year I was more interested in the manga stuff. It helps that we are friends with some of the people who work on these things. So we went to the Ultimate Yokai panel, which had our friend Zach Davidson, who you really need to get on the show. Uh,
He's been interviewed on, by me at a con before, and yes, we will hopefully get Zach on in the not too distant future to bring about the regular comics as well. He's also one of the writers on Ultimate X-Men right now. So
yes, as he loves to name drop whatever he can. And honestly, he deserves every like bit of that fame for that because he talks about I'm going to just go into this real briefly. I remember he mentioned that people say, "Oh man, I wish I could like talk to Peach Momoko." And he's like, "Well, where were you in 2019? She's doing all these cons, she's at the table, nobody notices she exists." And then she just kind of blew up. I think he gets that point of pride because he was there for her when she wasn't famous.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah,
So
and
every time he name drops, I'm like, you know what? You earned that. You earned that because you stood by her. Good for you. You
and
know?
he's won multiple Eisner Awards for translation over the years. Like, dude's got his chops, and he knows what he's talking about. And frankly, I appreciate that in a panelist. As somebody who's done panels before, like you don't want to go to a panel and be bored to tears on facts alone. You have to actually have the personality and the pizzazz in order to keep the.
I think that goes into because one of the things I'm going to talk about with panels is expertise.
Yes.
And a complaint I've had in the past is I'll look at a schedule and I'll see a panel that looks good,
Mhm.
and I'll read the description, and it just says, "Oh, we are going to do blank," and I'm like, "Who's we? Who's on this panel?" If it's a convention guest, some conventions do have the links to the convention guest thing, like they have that little box portrait image and then a link to their profile, like because they're a special guest, which Zach did have for his panels. But like if you're not a guest, you need to put your name in the description somewhere and say what you do. Like when I think I like the cons when we do panels where we can actually say it's Kris and it's Ian and they're the host of this. Yeah, but Zach definitely the yokai panel was him and Matt Alt and Hiroko Yoda, if
Yes,
I want.
I believe so.
And Matt Alt and Hiroko wrote a book about yokai years ago. Zach's book just came out. He actually did sell out, so good for him. You know, Zach should listen to this podcast. So you could just hear us talking like nice things about him because but it was either that panel or there was another one I went to with just Matt Alt. It was Matt Alt and Frederick. Oh, that was it. It was Matt Alt and Frederick showed in conversation.
Yes.
That was the one where they made the manga announcement. Yeah.
I made it there for the end of that, and I think I missed the manga announcement. Yeah, because
it was somewhere in the middle.
through. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I guess since Ian missed some chunks of these, you were there for that one pretty good, I thought, though. I don't remember. Frederick Schote is like a big deal when it comes to manga. Again, this is why I'm kind of appreciating the angle on manga here at Anime NYC this year. At least I felt it. I don't know if it's always been like this and I just didn't notice or whatever. But Frederick Schote, in general, if you have never heard of this guy, you should, first off. I would feel like he's not just important to manga, but just kind of important to comics in general because he's one of the reasons you've probably even heard of manga. He is, I mean, he did translate most of Osamu Tezuka's works. You've definitely heard of Tezuka. If you've not heard of Tezuka, I mean, yeah, well, maybe we'll have to do an episode. I don't know. It's just weird that if you hadn't heard of Tezuka. Tezuka is the god of manga. He is the guy who essentially invented an entire medium. I mean, yes, other people were doing manga, but he's like a big deal. And Schote was the guy who translated into English. He wrote the first book on manga, like English language book on manga, very easy title to remember. I think, didn't they say they were doing like a reprint or a new edition?
I believe that that's exactly what they said. Yes.
Yeah, I have the not the original edition, but the one I guess that's been the standard edition until now. I really love that book. He also wrote another book about manga magazines called Dreamland Japan. Trying to remember all the other stuff. Besides translating Tezuka, and he's written books, well, other books about just Japanese culture. Like he has one about Native American in the Land of the Samurai, and it's about this guy Ranald McDonald, which sounds like it's some weird anime. We need to stick an American character in their name, but it is actually some human being's name. Ranald McDonald is this, and he described him in the panel. He's basically one of the original weebs because like he wanted to go to Japan, but Japan wasn't really open. They couldn't land there, so he literally just like jumped off a ship and swam to shore.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, he writes a lot of books on Japanese culture. He has this award from the emperor, like whatever the big award is over there. Please, if you're a weeb and you're listening to this and you're like, yo, you dumb, stupid, you don't know that. I'm like, look, I can't remember everything, but he has like awards up the wazoo. And one of them is like an award that he got from the emperor. It was not presented to him by the emperor, to his disappointment, but it was an emperor's representative. He's also the only, American, the only white person, period, on like the manga awards panel in Japan, not like the American awards that just happened this week, but like he's one of, like there's like maybe 20 people and he's the only like white dude just standing there. You see him in the photo. He's a super tall dude. Yep. He's a super sweet guy, super smart. And he did this panel, with Matt Alt, who is also like a Japanese scholar. Matt Alt's claim to fame, like, yeah, he was in one of the first JET programs. That's, the whole thing where they just like send, idealistic Americans to go teach English in Japan and hopefully you survive the experience.
Yeah.
Zach is a graduate of that. I think Zach was a supervisor, and we probably know a few people who like graduated from JET. So that's part of like Matt Alt's thing. He likes to claim he was in one of the first Japanese language high school programs, like to teach the Japanese language. And I was about to like object to that when he first said it, because like my high school taught Japanese, but that was in the 90s, and he's talking about the 80s. So, so Ian's putting up this photo. It's got Fred Choate, Matt Alt, and Deb Aoki. Deb Aoki, she was the panel moderator. She's also the host of the podcast Manga Splaining, which I've never listened to, but from everything I heard, it's pretty awesome. And I know Ian was going to give it a shot. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
I would definitely give it a shot. And they are essentially explaining manga to Chip Zdarsky. So that
this
may,
week, yeah.
So that may give you more of a reason to check it out. But yes.
Yeah. But no, this photo that Ian posted, like if you look in the corner, I mean, Ian will put this on the blog or whatever, but there's a photo of Frederick Choate with Osamu Tezuka with Ward Kimmel of the Walt Disney, one of the 9 old men. And it's Ward Kimmel showing them his train set. It's like the greatest photo. If you have never seen this photo, you got to like track it down. I fucking love it so much.
Here's a better image of it.
Yeah, because another thing I will recommend, and they talked about it a little bit during this panel, was there is a manga biography of Osamu Tezuka called The Osamu Tezuka Story. It was translated by Choate. It's basically a phone book, but it is like his life story, and I loved it. And what was really funny to me is when I read it, and then the very next week I went on vacation to Spain, and I was in Barcelona, and I went to the Barcelona Museum of Art, and they had a giant exhibit on Tezuka.
Yeah. So
I'm looking around and I recognize like all of these characters, the artwork, because they were depicted in this manga biography. So it was really exciting. My favorite story from that is when Tezuka, like he was infamously late with a lot of his work. So the editor would like come to his house and like sit down with him and force him to finish it. So sometimes if he knew he was late, he knew the editor was probably going to show up, he would go to this hotel that locks its doors at night.
Yeah.
Like they literally like lower the shutter and just hide in there until morning.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was like, wow, manga's crazy. I love manga. But it's crazy.
It really is. Yeah. if you thought that that there were some strange stories in the fictional Cavalier and Clay, actual manga creation winds up beating that in a lot of weird.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like manga did have a good presence at NYC, but that also just might be the panels we went to.
Yeah,
Because
in general, though, manga and anime are very much cousins of each other, and they're related. And it wouldn't make sense at all to not have representation of manga, considering how many manga eventually become anime.
yeah, but that's just it. And maybe we'll do an episode or a panel about this at some point. I'm sorry, and if I cut you off there. Um, but the thing is, like, because things become anime, sometimes people don't see the point in reading the original story, which is kind of, yeah, that sucks. Because as I was telling, this also coincides, us going to Anime NYC also coincides with me like reinstalling the Shonen Jump app and starting to read Haikyuu again. Like, I never finished it. I got like maybe a third of the way through. Now I'm over halfway through. And Ian had to listen to me talk about how much I like the manga better because of the artistry at work.
Yeah.
Like, you get to see the design chops of the artist at work. Like, you get to see the way they like illustrate action, because animation, I mean, there's bad animation and good animation, but I feel like animation still sometimes doesn't get the energy that you might get from a good manga panel. Also, just the fact that anime tends to smooth all of the weirdness out of a lot of stuff.
Yes, I'd say. I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist is a great example of that. I mean, for how good Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is in particular, and how faithful it is to the original manga, I'm still super glad that I read the original manga, because there's stuff in there that just doesn't capture anywhere near as well to animation as it does to what was originally drawn on the page. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can do a whole episode about like manga and how great it is. We'll get Donovan, to talk with us. But yeah, there was that panel with Matt Alt, and then there was the yokai panel, which also had Matt Alt. They talked about, I had to look it up, the Shigeru Mizuki, who's
Yes.
basically like the father of horror manga, though I would be honest, more American fans would probably be familiar with the Showa, A History of Japan series, which I really recommend picking up, because it is literally a history of the Showa area, but it's through the lens of his life and what he had to, go through as a child, and then being in World War II, serving in the Japanese army and all that. Yeah, we have a photo up on screen of from left to right. It's Debo Oki again, Matt Alt, Hiroko Yoda, and Zach. Oh dear, Zach.
Yeah, well, this was a cool panel for me, because I knew about yokai in its basics, but didn't necessarily know a lot about the history of it, nor the intricacies of it, and how embedded in culture yokai can be. Yokai obviously being essentially like almost like I wouldn't quite say the horror of Japan, but
they even talk about this in the panel, because whenever they tried to translate yokai before, we just agreed that we should just use the word yokai. It was always translated with words like demon, but they're not really demons, because again, demon is a lot of the time it's like a very Christian viewpoint.
right.
Demons are the creatures that lived in the below, in the parts that God didn't look, and stuff like that, and yokai they're not from hell. Like, they aren't, horrible creatures that want to, like, destroy your soul, drag you down to hell or whatever. They are just weird. It's very much in the animist tradition, animism, where they're just present in everything. It's like there are, they're yokai for streams and rivers and beaches and trees and cell phones and TVs and umbrellas. Like, yeah, it's a great. There's a book another book that called Japandemonium Illustrated, and they talked about this in the panel. It's out of print, so there's no way to get it, and it's a great title. But again, yokai are not demons.
No.
But the book, it's Yokai Encyclopedia, is Toriyama Seiken, and he's basically the first guy who decided to like catalog yokai and like explain what they are.
Yeah.
And they said he's the reason why a lot of these things are now done as encyclopedias. Like, why is there a Pokedex? You know, Pokemon are essentially yokai. I've kind of known that for a while.
Well,
There are
I mean, a better way of describing it rather than demons is spirits.
Yeah, they
Like,
are spirits, but not, again, you kind of have to get away from the Judeo-Christian or just Christian way of looking at things with ghost.
mhm.
It's like we think of like humans die and our spirits pass, and maybe we lurk around. If you believe in ghosts or not, whatever. I'm not putting anything on our dear listeners here. But again, it's to break up. It's a spirit that exists independently of human existence is also probably a good way to think of it. Again, it's animism. It's the fact that everything on Earth has its own energy and its own life force, its own spirit. Yeah. But yeah, that's why Pokemon is a good example, because some Pokemon you're just like, what the hell? Like you look at like Gengar.
Yes.
Any ghost Pokemon, Gengar or Duskull, Ghastly. I'm just naming random ones. But then like I think of the most yokai Pokemon to me is always Rotom.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's it's like, it is a ghost Pokemon. It's a ghost electric type. And its main like shtick is that it can take over like appliances and electronics. So Rotom has like a washing machine form and a refrigerator form and a fan form.
Yeah.
And one of the game, maybe multiple games. I know at least one of the generations, your Pokedex was a Rotom, like a Rotom had taken over your Pokedex.
Yeah.
Because you would look at on the DS, the 3DS, you would look at the upper screen. It was Rotom's face. It was great. I love Rotom. Rotom's so cool. But yeah, no, I think the yokai thing was a good. In general, I think Anime NYC needs more cultural panels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, but I think they're getting there. Quite frankly, I think this year, and I mean, I said it much already, and I'll say it again. This year, there were more things on the schedule that interest me than in years past. It wasn't just I'm a fan of this anime, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this anime for the next.
As I've told you, any panel with the word ranking in the title can be immediately rejected. Nothing of value will be lost.
Well, let's talk about the sports anime one that we went to.
That one was interesting, because that definitely was I'm a fan of these things. But it's someone who like wrote a paper and like was trying to present their paper. It was like two people who wrote a paper, one of whom did not want to present.
Yes.
The other one did most of the talking. And they cataloged a bunch of sports anime. They didn't want to do manga because they said it's too big. Though if you actually were to like Google list of sports anime, Wikipedia's list of sports anime and manga, and it's not that long. So they could have like dipped into the manga side more, but I've told you, like, I feel like people are lean more towards anime for various reasons. And again, we can talk about that in another episode, because we don't want to get too sidetracked here.
And also, one of the questions that I asked them at the panel was whether or not things like Food Wars would be considered a sports anime, and they were very much yes on that. So that's
well, they mentioned Tiharuforu, which is, I mean, there was an anime. It's based on a manga. I've read most of the manga. I love it. That's about Karata, which is this game where you lay out cards in front of you, which have bits of poems on them, and then the reader reads part of a poem, and you have to find the second half of that poem. It's entirely possible you might not even have, well, no, you would have it in front of you, but not every single poem is going to be read out in a match.
right.
And like, so a lot of the strategy is like where you arrange the cards. This is what I learned from reading the manga, which is why manga is great, because you do learn stuff about Japanese culture.
Yeah.
And, I like that they talked about that. They did include stuff that wasn't overtly sports, but it's weird to me, like how things tend to revolve in my life. I don't know about other people, but how stuff tends to collide. Like I mentioned, going to the museum and finding that Tezuka exhibit, is that because of the Olympics and because the events were over so early, because they were in, Paris, and I could just watch them live, I was still like, I want to watch more sports stuff. So I was looking for more sports stuff, and I was go on like Netflix and just filter, or Disney Plus, and just look through the sports categories. And, I did it on Disney, and that's how I ended up watching Queen of Katwe, which is actually about chess.
Nice.
Because it's the competition thing does drop it into the sports category. It's also a fun movie. It's got Lupita Nyong'o, but she's like, just like the mom. So, somebody said I thought it was going to be like a white savior narrative. Like, no, 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 it's not. There's no white people in this movie.
Good, good.
And like Lupita Nyong'o is just like the always suffering mom, and
Oh,
is like the little girl who's like really good at chess, and it's a Disney sports movie, which means it's actually pretty good because Disney makes decent sports movies.
they do. Yes, they most definitely do. I'm always surprised by how good Disney does with their sports movies, but it's a genre that they seem to have achieved great goals with over the years. Not just the typical sports too, like golf. They've done baseball, of course. They've done tennis. Like a little
Have
bit.
they done tennis?
I'm pretty sure they have, if I remember correctly.
Because like hockey, they did Miracle. I like Miracle. Golf was the greatest game I ever played with Shia LaBeouf. I really do like that movie. Trying to remember. Yeah, baseball were
Yes.
they're the rookie.
Technically, the computer wore tennis shoes.
No, that does not count.
I know. Yeah,
That
okay.
is a Disney Channel movie.
They haven't done tennis. That's the one thing.
Yeah, but
bad.
they have like Remember the Titans for football. And they just released The Young Woman in the Sea. No, it's not even it's just Young Woman in the Sea, and it's with Daisy Ridley, and I actually do recommend it. Like people really should watch that one. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think again we're talking about a lot of stuff today. With Young Woman in the Sea, my last note will be on it is like the reason why Disney's good at doing sports movies is because they can do action without it being violent, which means that it'll still get like a G rating or PG at best, at worst rather.
Well, to go for something completely different. One of the other panels that we attended was our friend Evan Minto's panel. Of course, Anime Burger Time, which is every now and then I like to go to a just what I would consider a ridiculously silly panel. And this is one that is not only silly, but also is incredibly well conceived and executed, because there are a shocking amount. I guess not really that shocking because they're freaking burgers, but there's a shocking amount of burgers in anime that you could take your clips from and put together an hour-long panel of nothing but clips of anime featuring burgers.
I feel like, first off, I don't know how many bad clips panels I've been to, because I think like when you do a clips panel, it requires a little more effort. Like as opposed to we were just talking about ranking panels or, who would win in a fight or that kind of shit. That's just people just mouth vomiting. When it comes to a clips panel, you actually have to like pick what shows and movies you want to show and then gather the clips, and you have to introduce the clips. I mean, there are some are better than others. Not all of them are going to be great. We've kind of done a few, to be honest, like anime, like our Adult Swim Revolution was a clips channel a lot of the time because we would do news and then we would just show like different clips. Anime Burger Time, I kind of knew, like we've known Evan for a while. Never really went to his panels. He did one time. We do like this beer, we do our beer wave gathering, like at multiple cons, and he did a special Anime Burger Time just for the beer weeb gathering. So that's the only time we've been to Anime Burger Time.
It was called Oda Brew, not Beer Weeb.
But that's what it is. It is beer weebing.
Yeah.
I do like the few times we actually organized it, and I made little signs with like different characters drinking beer. So yeah, that was fun. But no, it's a clips panel of just burgers. I think what makes it work is one, Evan is not like snobby.
He's not. Yeah.
Yeah, he will show you Sailor Moon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And like those shows. Nor is he like just the hits, just the popular stuff. Like he'll mix it up and there'll be stuff you've never heard of. And then, and again, there'll be some popular show, and then there'll be some old show you haven't heard thought about in 30 years. And then I'm sure I can see Ian typing away on his little computer. Are you pulling up Dracula?
Yes, I'm pulling up Dracula, damn it. One of the worst animes ever made would be, of course, Dracula Sovereign of the Damned, which is based on Tomb of Dracula, one of the best comics ever made, and Marv Wolfman and all that jazz.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. The fact that it is an anime based on an American comic, and this was made in the 70s or
the late 70s, I believe.
So it's like it's even from a time where that wouldn't even be common. Like now, I feel like cross-cultural like pollination is fairly common, but this is when it was like really rare, and they were like, okay, let's adapt this
Yeah.
American comic book. You know?
1980 is the exact year that it came out. Actually, I just looked it up, and there's this amazing scene where Dracula loses his powers and robs a dude, and then proceeds to go to a diner and eat a hamburger. And it is embedded in my brain. Multiple people I know have used it in their panels over the years, and this is the quintessential bad adaptation.
I've never watched the whole thing. I did find it on YouTube. Maybe we can put that link in the thing. I did convince a friend to watch the whole thing, and he was like, "Wow, that was a piece of shit."
Oh yeah, it's pretty damn bad.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting bit of film history. Oh man, maybe we should do an episode where we get everybody at Comic Timing to just watch it, and then we just talk about that like we talk about other movies.
Your lord, that would be painful.
It would be great. Okay, guys, I need you to all to start going on the Facebook and email and start pressuring Ian and Brent.
Do this. Don't make me do this. Oh God. But he also going back to the panel. Evan does a good job of having a through fare. Like there'll be clips he shows multiple clips of throughout the panel, so that at least a story is told for a specific show that has multiple clips of a burger in an episode. So that it's a good variety and well executed panel. So
yeah, and he had the commercials I'd never seen before, so that was always fun.
McDonald's commercials, yeah, especially.
Yeah.
And then he ran a panel on Sunday, which was the last panel that we attended.
Yeah, which was a panel I would have gone to even if it was him, but it wasn't him. But for me, like it's good to have somebody who knows the subject. It was about manga magazine.
Yes.
So for those who are not familiar, who are listening to the episode, is that the way manga are published in Japan is that they are published in weekly or monthly installments in these phone book size magazines. They're anthology magazines. You might have like 10, 15 different series running, in a magazine at once. And so you'll get like, you can open up an issue of Shonen Jump and there's at one point in history, you'd open it up and you'd get like, JoJo's and Dragon Ball, right? Yeah. I was trying to think of things that would actually overlap, or like if you opened it up in the early 2000s, you would have Naruto and One Piece.
Oh God, yeah.
And Bleach. Yep. I'm just trying to remember different because you got to remember like Dragon Ball actually stopped running ages ago. As did JoJo's. It's weird that JoJo's the anime is like still coming out because the manga has been over since like the 90s. It just weirds me out so much.
Well, there is a Dragon Ball Super manga that has been running as well.
It ended.
Yes, you're right. Very recently, but
yeah, it ended. There's a movie coming out, but the manga and the show both ended. And I remember this because it was really interesting. I think it was in like Brazil or something. They had I don't know if it was in Rio, but it was like a square, like Times Square type area, and they had actually gotten the Jumbotron there to play the last episode of Dragon Ball Super.
Oh wow!
And the square was packed with people, and I'm like, can you imagine them doing that here? I think it will happen someday.
Oh, I'm sure.
When you have One Piece doing Times Square takeovers, we're on our way there. I think the last episode of One Piece is a good candidate for that kind of thing here in the United States.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, he was talking about different manga magazines. The fact is that they still exist. It was like what happens after a while is like you get enough chapters and then they publish them in a collection called the Tankobon. And that's what we get here in the United States. So if you've seen manga at your local comic store, if you are a manga reader listening to this, then you know what a tankobon is. You read those all the time. But he was just talking about the history of manga magazines, and it was just really cool, honestly. Like just to hear about like how when they reach their peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their fall apart by pure coincidence happened to be almost the exact same fall apart as the comic industry here in America. Right around 96, 97 is when things kind of like started falling in Japan, and that's when the big boom here in America kind of
also crashed.
Well, so
yeah,
purely coincidental. Like it wasn't.
I mean,
the speculator boom like it was here.
No, their bigger problem was they had a recession in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that might have been part of it, because I would not say it was digital, because again, it's the late 90s. Digital was not really a thought in either country in terms of comics. I mean, oh man, I would love to do an episode about digital, because I don't know, I'm like the only person who seems to remember these like animated digital comics they did in like 2000, 2001 on Marvel.com. So I'm
Hey,
sure other people listening to this do. Yeah.
I remember them. I remember reading some exclusive Ultimate Spider-Man stuff that's now very hard to find. So I was definitely checking that out when it did exist. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean those are the panels that we attended, and honestly, I feel like I learned stuff this time around. It wasn't just like for my entertainment or for my enjoyment. It was a scholarly track, and I look forward to doing that again in future years. And I hope, like you, that they expand upon that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like having an entire track that's just manga would be a good idea.
Yeah.
When we went to Evan's the magazine panel, there was another panel about manga on at the same time. I don't know if it was, I can't remember what it was offhand, but it was like either women's manga or lesbian manga or something. It's something I would have checked out, and I couldn't because I was like, look, I'm already committed to going to Evan's panel.
Yeah.
Because I've been interested in manga magazines since I read Dreamland Japan. That was Frederick Schote's second book on manga, came out in 1996. And that I'm just a print nerd. So that's the kind of thing that appeals to me is just the history of print. And honestly, if you've ever bought a manga magazine, they're just like, they're magical almost. Like he mentioned Koro Koro during the panel. And Koro Koro has essentially evolved into like a video game magazine.
Yeah.
But it's not like the video game magazines of our use where we think of like GamePro and EGM. It's like just a big chonker magazine of like comics and articles, maybe strategy guide stuff, and just so many ads for toys. Like 10-year-old me would have thought this was the greatest thing on earth if I was able to get that. So like that was my thing take away from the panel. Like I get that like little warm fuzzy side, you know.
Well, since you mentioned games, let's also touch on something that we kind of stumbled upon, and you realized that it was a partnership before I did, and that's Play NYC. And how essentially it was kind of a merger of the two.
It's a merger. Because I've heard of Play NYC. I've never gone. I really should, because I'm into video games. I want to be in the industry and all that other crap. But it usually was its own thing, and I think it was usually in August.
Yes.
And this year we happened to go downstairs to the video game section, and I saw the big sign that said Play NYC. And we walked around a little bit, but then when we were leaving, I noticed I read the sign closer, and it was Play NYC at Anime NYC, and I think they were talking about a partnership, and I think this is just the way it's going to be going forward. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Play NYC was having trouble getting space. I don't know if Play NYC was at the Javits. I don't think it was.
I don't think it was. Just looking at the setup from previous years.
Is that Terminal 5?
That may very well be Terminal 5, to be honest with you.
Terminal 5's a music venue, just FYI for non-New Yorkers.
But then when I scroll further down, this does definitely look like the Javits down here. So. Yeah. Maybe they had multiple venues over the years, but
yeah, I do think they were at Terminal 5 one year. I think it sounds like they never really had a home. Yeah, so that was one of the problems. Yeah, because like it's funny. I mean, I think that's very telling that you and I have never gone to Play NYC. Like I've known about it and I've never felt driven because it didn't have the vibe. It didn't have the convention vibe. It just felt like a paid event for like kids to drag their kids to. I mean, for parents to drag their kids to. Yeah. And it's not something that appeals to me. Even though you look at these photos and it's like, okay, there's a grown ass, men or teenagers at least in those photos.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because we do PAX East and PAX Unplugged for tabletop stuff, like Play NYC has just never really vibed for me.
Yeah.
It is sorry, that isn't sorry. There was I know there was somewhere I was going with this, and my brain just went.
Well, the way that they put it on here is, now together with Anime NYC, and of course they got the extra day because originally it was a 2-day event when it existed on its own, and now they have, basically inside of Anime NYC they can have it be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And 80,000 square feet of games. They didn't just have video games. They had card games. They had board games. They had spaces where you could sit down and play your own games. It looked like there were a couple of tabletop spots and whatnot.
It looked like the gaming section at a con. I mean, for the most part. I mean, it was fine. Like I've seen worse. I've seen stinkier gaming sections. But they had like nice booths. They had a lot of like indie devs They had a big seating area, which was Hex and Co. So I think they were like teaching you how to play games. Hex and Co. is a small chain of gaming cafes here in New York. So that was kind of nice. And they also shoved, isn't that where they shoved the stage all the way in the back?
Yes, there was a stage that was not just. I mean, they weren't just doing gaming themed events either.
That was the annoying where they put the annoying like let's rank our favorite anime boys type events. I
Yeah,
hate those, and I'm glad that they shoved them in the back. You
a
know,
dating game type thing was happening at one point. Frankly,
yes.
they should turn it into a gaming stage. If they're going to have it be there, that should be where that the gaming events happen. So if you want to have like a gaming track of panels, why don't you have it right there on that?
I feel like that would be too noisy. I think that's unfair too. But however, you're talking about gaming panels, and that's the things. Like I mentioned, there were a lot of indie devs
Yeah.
down there. And this is probably part of the problem that Play NYC was always going to have is that being in August, you will never get the major publishers.
Oh yeah.
Never, ever, ever, because we have PAX West coming up this weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. Gamescom was what, last week, 2 weeks ago? So they are busy with that. Like they have actual business to do at those cons. So you will never get like the big guys. You will never get like Sony or Nintendo. And you won't, it's unlikely you'll ever get like stuff like Twitch. Just there's no need for them it's an opportunity to kind of reach out to the independent game developers and kind of raise them up the way like PAX does when they have their little indie, the indie mega booths. And also the PAX Aus mega booth where they just have the Australian developers. So they could do something like that. That's why I'm not like shitting on this whole Play NYC thing.
Oh yeah.
Because I think there's an opportunity there for them to really build that up.
I don't think this is going to be like when New York Comic Con reabsorbed New York Anime Fest into itself, and eventually New York Anime Fest just no longer existed. Like there were a year or two when they were the same con happening in the same place, only one was upstairs and one was downstairs. It even had its own separate artist alley. Then eventually they just said screw it to that and recombined things. This makes sense because most anime conventions have a gaming space, and the fact that they had as part of that a whole bunch of arcade games set up. They had the claw machines. They had.
I feel like I usually see that stuff though. Like so that wasn't unusual.
No, I don't. But it's a good marriage. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense for them to, play upon that and build a full gaming, bottom floor out of that and have that be Play NYC.
Yeah, I think I said to you when we were there, I was like really surprised that they didn't reach out to Wonderville and Arcade Commons, formerly known as Death by Audio Arcade, just to borrow some of their machines. Because so for those who have not heard me talk about this 2 gazillion times, Wonderville is an indie arcade here in Brooklyn. And when I say indie, I mean the games are like really indie because they build their own arcade machines, and they're of like they have creators who actually apply to be on these machines, and they loan the machines out to like other bars and to events. You'll see them at MagFest usually.
Yeah.
And God, I'm trying to remember. No, because there are certain times when they just clean everything out, like because machines go on loan. And I think Play NYC at New York at Anime NYC probably would be a good opportunity because there are some games I think that would appeal to to the weebs. There's like a dodgeball game that they have. Oh no, it's Kung Fu Kickball is the game I'm thinking of. And I'm like, of course you could put that in there. People will play that.
Oh sure, yeah.
There's another game that they have that I think I really called Hair Nah, and it uses a Connect. Basically, you're a black woman on a flight, and you have to keep people from touching your hair. So you use the Connect and you move your arms to swat the hands away. It's funny as hell. So
and building upon gaming. One other topic I wanted to bring up is in this same route here. Some of the special guests at Anime NYC were Critical Role.
That was weird.
I know it is weird. It is very weird. D&D is huge right now. Probably, I mean, I wouldn't quite say bigger than it's ever been, but it's pretty damn close to it in a lot of ways.
I mean, look, it is the 10th Sorry, it is the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, it is.
It's 10 years since 5th edition. The new edition is coming out next week. Which, by the way, check out my TikTok. I did a little mini review of what I've read in the new player's guide so far. It's because I got a free copy, disclosure. And then, you have these actual play shows, of which Critical Role has somehow become the biggest of them. It's probably because they put out content pretty often, and they have these professional voice actors who are doing the roles, and they're having fun doing it. I'm not saying that they hired them just to do silly voices. They got, Matthew Mercer got his friends to do it, and they're clearly having a ball. And that exploded. But then there's, of course, there's other shows like, the Adventure Zone, and we like Acquisitions Inc. is our, beloved, baby in terms of the actual play space. But a lot of people are interested. It's just weird to me that you would have Critical Role at an anime con when the crossover is so flimsy there. Like, it makes sense at Comic Cons, because Comic Cons have basically catch-all pop culture conventions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And at a gaming con, that of course makes perfect sense. You could do it at a PAX, because PAX, even the ones that aren't PAX Unplugged, PAX Unplugged is a very clear one, but PAX Unplugged is also small, and we don't want Critical Role there because we want it to stay small. But PAX West and PAX East could easily, and I think they have had some Critical Role. I don't know if they've had everybody, but I know Matthew Mercer did story time at one of the PAXs at some point.
I think PAX East somewhat recently, if I remember correctly. Don't quote.
Yeah. Yeah, so it makes sense when it's like a catch-all media con, but it's weird at an anime con because I can't really make a clear connection. I mean, maybe it's like, well, Matthew Mercer did some voices, maybe, I guess, but that's still thin.
That's what the connection is, essentially. Critical Role had an Amazon Prime animated series. A bunch of these people, as you said, are voice actors and voice actresses, so they're already, I guess, embedded into the fandom in some ways. But yes, to bill it as a Critical Role, influence or whatnot, when really, it's not like they actually did a D&D session there. This was just all autographs and stuff like that. So I guess, were there people who bought Anime NYC badges just so that they could get autographs with the Critical Role people? Maybe. But
maybe. I don't know. I just decided to check because remember, Critical Role is going to be doing Madison Square Garden.
Yes,
and they did sell out.
Yes.
Mind you, a lot of the tickets were being hawked, were eaten up by scalpers.
Of course.
And that's where the price spikes were coming from. Yeah. And I love this article. It's just like, they will be appearing live at New York's famous Madison Square Garden next year. Madison Square Garden is a multi-purpose arena in New York and has a capacity of about 20,000 people.
Madison Square Garden is a multi-capacity arena that destroyed Penn Station in order to be built there. So screw it.
It's ugly. We wouldn't mind if it weren't so ugly and badly designed and it's sad making.
Yep. Yeah, but either way, if you were one of the people who went to Anime NYC just so that you could get a photo op with Critical Role.
Oh, wait, can I make a quick correction?
Yes,
go right not ahead. Critical Role. It was Dimension 20 that sold out Madison Square Garden.
Got it.
Dimension 20. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize if anybody was about to get super mad at us. Yeah. But Critical Role probably could sell at Madison Square Garden if they really wanted to.
And Critical Role also, if I remember correctly, did actually have a full D&D session at New York Comic Con this last year, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Well, so, I can Google for you.
Yeah. But either way, I'll maybe next year they will actually just straight up have a D&D session. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it does kind of skew even further from the message of, I guess, this is an anime and manga con if you're having Critical Role D&D, but hey, if it gets butts in the seats, then by all means.
So yes, they were at New York Comic Con 2023, only Thursday and Friday. They had a panel, autographs and photo ops, and then more photo ops on the Friday.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, so just that, because I mean, there was a fireside chat at Anime NYC, so it's not like they just had photo ops, but no straight up D&D.
Yeah, it's just weird. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be gatekeeper or whatever. I think it's more upsetting when there are more natural places for a con to expand into and they don't.
Yeah. But this isn't like, and you know, like you said, you know, Comic Cons are a catch-all at this point. Like you get everybody there. One of the reasons why Fanatics Fest exists is because of, you know, wrestlers that were making bank at comic conventions on appearances and whatnot, and they're like, oh hey, we could make bank off this if we just have a convention that's literally meet and greets for celebrities, wrestlers, sports guys, and stuff like that, and put it together into one thing. And that was at Javits a couple of weeks ago.
Did they have anything besides just meet and greets? Because I know I saw some of the photos and I thought it was really cool because I saw like display cases with like different stuff in them, and I thought that was awesome. I love that kind of stuff.
They may have had, you know, some panels. Wow, I did not expect that to play music the minute that I went.
Oh, was that you?
Yeah. Thanks, Fanatic Fest website, for immediately blasting me with music the minute that I went there.
Oh my God, maybe the reason it was so loud is because we did it at the same time, even.
That is highly possible. Yeah,
because I loaded up the site and like, yeah.
But it does look like it was mostly autographs and photo ops and stuff like that. There were actual panels, because I remember that there were a couple of wrestlers that had you know, conversations and whatnot, but they weren't designated panel rooms, if I remember correctly.
I think you could do panels, like do Fanatics Fest sports panels, like get John Boyce to come on board and talk about like Breaking Madden or the ones he does now, like the zone ones. I'm trying to remember the name. The ones you love. Yeah, I know you love them. Yeah.
I mean, I would consider going, quite frankly, if they got more things like that. I'm not a photo op guy. Like, I don't go to get photo ops with people. I know that tons of people I know do, and tons of people listening to this do. And frankly, whatever works for you is why you should attend the convention. It's not the reason that I do it, which is why I wouldn't consider going there unless there were actual like panels and stuff like that to make me.
Yeah, I can think of so many panels like this, like stupid shit that's happened at the Olympics.
Oh my God. Yes.
Like that. Yeah, I know you watched it too. There's a documentary, as a John Boyce thing about the 1904 Olympic marathon.
Oh my God.
Or should I say the 1904 human rights abuse-a-thon?
Oh my God, dear sweet Lord.
Yeah, it's called, was it brandy and rat poison?
Yes.
And that comes from the fact that the one of the American runners, his coach was just giving him brandy and strychnine the entire 26 miles. I think he won.
It was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I listened to that, and don't drink strychnine when you're running a marathon.
His coach refused to give him water. That was part of the problem. And there was only one water station for the entire marathon. And at the end, sorry, spoiler, but the only reason there was only one water station is because the organizer at the marathon wanted to see how long the human body could last without water.
Yeah.
That's why I say human rights abuses.
Exactly. Let's experiment on the Olympians. Yeah. Great job. Great job. Is this St. Louis or Cincinnati? I'm trying to remember.
It was St. Louis. Again, you guys, you should watch this episode. I hope Ian puts it in the show notes. Yeah. But like just the short summary of it is, you had like this American runner was only being brandy and strychnine. You had like one guy who got chased off the track by wild dogs. Yeah. And still somehow I think he got like the silver or the bronze. Brilliant. Even though he had to leave the track entirely and like hide in like a tree for an hour.
Oh my God.
And like the roads were unpaved. There was dust being kicked up by traffic because they didn't even bother closing the streets off the traffic. So people were breathing in this dust. And the thing is, when you breathe in dust, it kind of solidifies in your lungs. Yeah. So like I said, a lot of human rights abuses going on over here. Like so many preventable tragedies.
Yes.
But like I would watch panels with John Boyce on it is the ultimate point of me babbling about this.
I would agree entirely on that. But overall to close it out, I think Anime NYC 2024 was a success. Next year will be the same time of year. They have 100% confirmed that. The dates will be the 22nd to the 24th in 2025. So exact same weekend, just a day earlier, because that's how calendars work.
The march of time. How dare it?
I know. Yeah. Same weekend next year. Hopefully New York weather will behave itself next year as well. Hopefully the trains will behave itself. Yes, we talked about trains again. But
choo-choo. Chugga chugga choo choo, motherfuckers.
But I think overall it was a positive experience, and I've probably not been this hyped for an Anime NYC since its inception. I've been so on the damn thing since it started, and I had a really good time this year. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, I find myself excited, not about the con even, but just like I want to read more manga. I mean, again, we've talked about, like the transit issues were a problem, and I think the being in the summer is still will still be a problem for them for a while because of the whole like one of the things that you used to be able to do. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make the show go too long,
That's
but
fine.
one of the things that did bug me, and I didn't get to mention this earlier, was that like sometimes I go to like Yen Press or Viz, and they usually are pre-selling books
Yes.
that aren't out yet.
Mhm.
They had like nothing. I think Viz had like one book that wasn't out yet, and Yen Press had nothing. And I think that's because it's not the time of year that they usually release books. Also, they might have done their pre-sales at other shows already.
Well, Chris, to bring it back to another popular episode that we did on Toy Fair, which next time there is a Toy Fair, we will be attending, and hopefully we'll have more to talk about. But the last Toy Fair that we attended was not the typical time of year that Toy Fair happens, and because of that, there weren't a lot of announcements to be made. There wasn't the hype that would typically be around a Toy Fair because it was in October, and it didn't have the same impact that it would necessarily have if it was in the midst of announcement season.
Yeah, I mean, Anime NYC did at least have Terminator Zero, which comes out next week, so they had a week, but it wasn't as big of an announcement because again, it's only a week away.
Drama One Half as well had its premiere at Anime NYC.
Yeah, I think if the industry adjusts to it, they'll get more announcements. I do still expect that like New York Comic Con will still have some announcements. I didn't even realize there was an animated Lord of the Rings movie coming out.
I had no idea. Wow.
Well, now you do, and it's coming out in December, and I have no idea how to feel about this.
Okay.
But that feels like the kind of thing that like Anime NYC in November would have been able to hype more.
Definitely.
But in August, it's like it's in a weird place. So I think the industry is going to have to adjust to it because regardless of who shows up at the show, I mean, in terms of industry, the fans are going to charge and they're coming to this no matter what. Yeah.
And as a reminder, Chris and myself will be at New York Comic Con. I am attending as a plebe this year. So I have a 4-day pass, which is currently in the mail, according to FedEx. That will be coming to me shortly, and that is October 17th through October 20th this year, 2024. Chris has got her press credentials. Obviously, Jamal's going to be there on the floor like usual this year. And I'm not quite sure if Donovan's going to make it this time around. But either way, I'm hoping Raph will be there for a day as well, and we'll definitely have a post-con wrap up.
If we have to, we will weekend at Bernie's, Raph. If we bust.
100%, yeah, and I'm hoping to. In previous years, I really haven't gotten too much of the interviews on the floor because it's been crazy. But I hope to at least get a couple of interviews this time around with some people that you may not have heard from before or in a while on the show. But get your tickets if you still can at NewYorkComicCon.com. I know most days are sold out at this point. I'm going to the buy tickets right now to see which days are actually still available. Thursday, Friday, and Sunday are still available. Saturday is completely sold out, and 4-day badges are completely sold out. So you still have a chance of attending. Just you're gonna have to pay more if you want to do Saturday at this point.
Yeah, and they are already teasing for panel reservations because I've been getting those emails and getting very confused when I go to the site and I can't actually reserve a panel yet. But yeah, hopefully this year I'll remember.
They are definitely coming up soon, and I know there's at least one or two that I actually do want to partake in this time around. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah, we want to try to be less grumpy at conventions.
Yes, exactly. And frankly, I was less grumpy at this convention outside of the loud noises and the inability to. So, mission accomplished.
Wait, Ian, are you a Chihuahua?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe
that's what you sounded like.
Maybe all this time I did not know that I was a Chihuahua, but turns out I was a Chihuahua the entire time. Who knows?
Yeah, it's just, oh man, no, it was good. I mean, again, there are a few things they could work on, in terms of content. I would like to do panels next year, so hopefully we will get our shit together and do some stuff, because it's been a while for the two of us. We haven't done anything since before COVID.
Brandon Christopher is doing more panels than I am. And I say that cannot be. I say that cannot be. We must change it. But I think that's about it for the con and onward to next year. And before we wrap up, Kris, let people know where they can find your stuffs.
I mean, it's all the usual places. I do not go on the dead name Twitter anymore, but you can find me on Blue Sky. It's Kris at the Blue Sky, like the weird usernames they have on there. I'm not Kris at Lampain, but if you type in Kris Nautis, it should come up, because I fear no being attaching my name to my real name or whatever, that stuff. I am sometimes writing for Make Use Of right now, just trying to make men's meet, stay hungry.
Yes.
Stay in the field.
Yes.
You will see me at New York Comic Con. I know, I mean, I don't know if you're going to release this before or after. I know I said I wanted to do Read Comics in Public Day, and I just realized that's Wednesday, and I haven't done shit, so I apologize to everyone. Maybe it'll just be me and Raph, because he was the only one who actually said anything, so it'll just be me and Raph, and we'll sit a park and read comics.
There you go. Yeah, but either read comics in public, people. Do it.
It is Wednesday. Again, I don't know if you're releasing this by Wednesday, but that is Wednesday.
It'll definitely be out by Wednesday, but it might be out on Wednesday. So in that case, hurry up and listen to this so that you know that it's on Wednesday. But we'll figure it out. If we don't do it this year, then we'll try to do something next year.
Yeah, I just lost track of time. It happens. We've had it like between the DNC, like eating our brain. It's been a crazy month.
Yes, it has. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sitting here for a solid 2.5 hours or so and shooting the shit about conventions and the inability to use a bathroom. So thank you very much on that.
I feel like this is going to be the running joke. No, please do not make jokes if you meet me in person. I'm already suffering. I don't need you punching down on that.
However, make jokes about other things. That's perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, you could make fun of other things. I have plenty of stupid shit in my life that is worth being roasted over, just like Ian does.
Yes, I did.
Did you know Ian is not going to be in New York again?
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I'm going to be in New York State, okay? All right? And if anybody's in the Buffalo area and they see somebody who looks like me, it's probably me over Labor Day weekend. So, go stop me and say, hey, I know that guy. I listened to that podcast. He's a cool dude. All right. And with that, I'm going to stop talking. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I'm going to do some promos. Here we go.
Promos.
The email address for Comic Timing is comictiming@gmail.com. You can find us over at facebook.com/comictiming. And, of course, that's also where the Comic Timing fan group is. So make sure to check that out as well. We are on the dead name Twitter at twitter.com/comictimingpod. We're also on Blue Sky as Comic Timing. We're on Threads as well as Comic Timing Podcast, Instagram Comic Timing Podcast as well, and YouTube as Comic Timing Podcast. Kris, one more time, thank you, and thank you for putting up with me for 2.5 hours. Always appreciated.
I put up with you all weekend.
Oh yeah, that's true. And as always, there's always time for comics.